So once again, thank you very much for coming. My name is Amir Kaleem. I am part of the Lync team. I'm the CTO for the EPG group. EPG stands for Enterprise and Partner Group. And today, I'm going to try and present my case. I want to keep this session very, very interactive. So interrupt me, raise your hand, tell me that I'm smoking something, whatever I'm saying. I'm absolutely okay with it. You can see the tire marks on my face. I'm somebody who whole his life has been on other side, on the enterprise side. So, it's over 6 years now that I've been with Microsoft. So I have drank a lot of Microsoft Kool-Aid, but you guys keep me grounded. So let's go through it. So whole idea of this session, when we conceived even last year, and I have changed from last year a little bit, try to, a little bit, go a little bit one more level deeper as opposed to just putting up a concern and a question and trying to answer that or sharing my thoughts. I'm going to see if I can go and map it back and become, on the same page, the way I see things and where I stand. And the comments here may not necessarily be Microsoft comments. It's Amir Kaleem uncut sort of a thing. So I want to share that with you. So the idea is, just to level set, this is what my goal is today. To make sure that I'm addressing those concerns which I hear when I travel around the globe. Do you guys travel a lot? How many people travel a lot in this room? All right. In last 12 months, by some conservative estimate, I've flown 200,000 miles. More than that? Cool. That's why somebody's like me, right? So anyway, so the thing is, when I was first time asked to look at Lync, and there are a few people in this room who can testify to that, my exact comment was, this is nothing more than a webcam and a live messenger. I don't know whether you can even assign a DID to this thing. And that's the reason I put up there that when you learn this thing, when you are that person who has lived through it, you have designed communication networks, voice networks, you have managed QSIC architecture, network architecture. Then when you learn this, the capabilities, the telephony, the voice capabilities of Lync, the dial plans of this, you become a fan of it, to be honest. And I'll share that how I did that. So enough of that. Here are some of the apologies for the animation. Here are some topics or focus areas which I thought. And if there's something missing here, we can certainly park it, and I can write it down, and we can address that. Is this sound fair? Dial plan, high availability, interop, IP-related stuff, security 729, and still I hear that. Mobility, management, and monitoring. I'm probably not going to be hitting very much on the management and monitoring. I'll try if the time permitting. But I'm missing anything here? Sound reasonable? All right, cool, awesome. All right, cool. I'll address it. So, here is this thing. Before I really get into these, I know that most of you are familiar with Lync to some level. It's always good to level set. So, not trying to teach you anything here, but I wanted to put something out there and say, hey, UC means many things to many people. You can define UC, what is end-to-end solution means, and from me it starts from the person, to somebody it may start from the network, right? But I thought that these capabilities, or in other words, these workloads, which are there, like IM, chat, presence, telephony, all these are under the umbrella of UC. Generally speaking, you agree with it? Yeah? Okay. So now once that, the other piece is I wanted to tell you is that you must have heard a lot of Microsoft people saying this thing, single image system. or you must have seen in Enterprise Connect, or previously known as VoiceCon, the telephony RFP, and that one of the key requirements there would be single image system, right? You know what single image system is if you remember, shelf, line card, so you didn't want to manage each separately. You wanted it to the same control plane and management plane, right? So that's where it was important that as a PBX, as a switch, you are not ending up managing on per shelf basis or per line card basis, a single image system sort of a thing. I think that was for the dial tone, right? Now you're talking about collaboration, conferencing, all those things, mobility. I think from a unified communication standpoint, that requirement is valid as well, single image system. So that's why if you look at this, all these capabilities, minus that unified messaging, which is obviously voicemail, all these capabilities should come from a single piece of infrastructure, software infrastructure, right? So that's what the Lync server is. That's what it is. Now, let me show you what I mean by that, how it is done. So the things which is, all these server roles which are under the in the box, these are software server roles which run on the same server. Well, it's a modular architecture. You can peel them off and put them if you want to from the scalability standpoint, but it's the same piece of software, what I'm trying to explain, single. So just want to make sure that we are okay with it. So these are the server roles. Well, when Timur first time told me about, oh, you need a front-end server, you need a mediation server, it went over my head. You know, Cisco was right. These Microsoft guys have no idea what they're talking about. Well, if only thing he had said that it is a SIP registrar, SIP redirect server, SIP proxy server, it would immediately make sense to me what a front-end server is, and I would be able to place it in my head, in my network, how it's going to come around. So that's what I'm trying to say. So, well, I think the second piece immediately come to my mind is that, okay, so from a scalability standpoint, from a high availability standpoint, what are the topology I can build upon it? So I wanted to put some numbers there. These are from, the link is there. This deck is available to you from my Lync, I believe, website. So you can see that, but at a high level, you know, standard edition and enterprise edition. The only difference is the scalability, nothing else. The capabilities, the features, the high availability with Lync 2013, all the same. It's only the scalability sort of the thing. Even if you look at that, something like 150 DS0s, man, that's decent on one single server. It's really cool. I mean, you can scale up. You can repeal the mediation server, and I'm going to qualify what mediation server, because the term mediation server is very deceiving sometimes. So what it can scale up to 1,200 calls, 1,200 DS0s. How many T1s or E1s it comes out to be, you can do the math, right? Very, very scalable stuff. Okay, this is what I was talking about. So blame goes to Timur. Well, front-end server it's a SIP-based architecture. I mean, anybody, I think anybody in the industry would say we are RFC 3261 compliant. Yeah, right? So it's RFC 3261 compliant, and what exactly it means from a user experience standpoint, from a management standpoint, from a security standpoint, you know, what it means, and I'll go further deep and answer those concerns and those topics, which I did there. But this is important from that standpoint. If you look at mediation server, so if you are running, I don't know what they call their operating system now, but on ISR, it is iOS. Still call it iOS? I think iOS is a device. So, well, if you look at from a session border controller standpoint or something, it's an IP to IP. Go to very basics, it's a fundamentals, it's IP to IP gateway, right? So if it happens to run on a Windows server, it's still IP to IP gateway. Think in this term. I'll actually, let me go to the next slide and it will make sense. Think in this terms. It has two interfaces. One is on the proxy side, one is on the gateway side to the outside world. On the proxy side is always secure, always, both for signaling and media. It's right out of the box. If you're new to Lync, you cannot deploy Lync without PKI. It is certificate-based encryption for the 3 traffics. So I'll come a little bit touch more on the security. For gateway side, where it can connect to the PSTN, to the outside world, or the PBX, or a session border controller, or whatever, it depends upon the capability of the next hop. If that next hop, SIP termination endpoint, can participate in the certificate-based, TLS-based, encryption, absolutely. Otherwise, it is SIP over TCP for in clear. Make sense? Yeah? Okay, cool. Now, here is another thing. When Sinead and I were writing that RFP back in 2005-06 timeframe, yeah, I usually give this. So I wrote an email to various regions in the world, people from the service delivery, from operations team, saying that, hey guys, I want must-have showstoppers requirement so that I can capture them part of the RFP. Very first email I got said that you should be able to hit the prime DN twice to make the redial. See what I just said? I'll say it again. Prime DN, prime directory number. So the old phones, you have the buttons, right? So the first line is usually the primary line. So you hit twice, whatever the last call was, you should be able to redial. Okay, so in the very next global call, kickoff call of the RFP, this is what I said. Folks, we're not going to run the RFP. We have already decided on our vendor. Very first call. And everybody in the globe, what are you talking about? We have not even said, well, I just received a must-have requirement that you should be able to hit prime DN twice. The only vendor in the world who can provide that capability is Nortel. So tell me you need redial, don't tell me how to do it. That's the point I'm trying to make. The reason I shared that story was that there are people, so think in this term. I shared yesterday with a few folks who are in the room, probably repeat for you guys, my apologies. In my head, the way I made the linkages was that voice is an application. How many people would agree on that? Is voice as an application? No? Okay, so most agree on that. Voice is an application. What I was saying this, voice is an application. I was trying to write the requirements for that, but actually I was writing the requirements for dial tone. Dial tone is a capability of voice not equal to voice. What the mistake I was making, voice is equal to dial tone is equal to PBX. Voice is not equal to PBX. Dial tone is how to manipulate dial tone, how to present dial tone, how to write dial tone. That's PBX features. This is a sub-capability of maybe one of the major core capabilities of voice, but it is. Otherwise, hoot and howler, audio conferencing, RF even over a voice, all those are capabilities under voice application. So point is there are about 40, I think, or 45 features, PBX features from traditional world, which enterprises use out of those 700-800 features, or 1,000 features which PBX vendors would claim. Out of those, there are core 12 features: make a call, hold a call, transfer a call, caller line ID, auto hold, blind transfer. Those everybody uses every day. We basically delivered those features, 71% of them in R1, 2007 October timeframe. And then we built upon those features with R2 and then Lync 2010. And with 2013, we added certain capabilities which are not per se voice features, but related to them, basically. So just wanted to level set that. So that's the reason I put that up there is, this is a common question people ask. Is Lync 2010, usually they will ask that question, is that the first release? Answer is no. Actually, Gurdeep shared this morning with you 2003, live communication server. If you take it from a first interaction of Microsoft with the telephony, that was live communication server 2005. How many people remember that? What was that? If it was, we basically said, after live communication server 2003, people said, hey, this is cool, but we need a marriage between the desk phone and the desktop. Now, Microsoft went out, spoke to all the players of Siemens, Avaya, Nortel, Cisco, you name it, NSCs of the world. Everybody on their line side had their proprietary protocol. Skinny, Unistem, Cornet, right? DSC. So you see if you had to go and license these technologies from the line side, so hopefully line side, trunk side, yeah, most people understand. So line user side and trunk side. So if on the line side or the station side, then it would be nightmarish to keep up their, as they improve their protocol and you license it. So Microsoft said, no, we can't do that. There is one protocol which was, with slight variation or flavor, was available with every PBX vendor, CTI. But even in 2005, if somebody had come to me and Sinead and said that we have a very slick click-to-call solution with CTI, we would scratch our heads, because even in 2005 timeframe, we knew the limitation of CTI, and it didn't have a good name. So what we did, Microsoft and their partners, Microsoft said, you know what, let's call it remote call control. So RCC is a Microsoft invention, hiding the ugly baby with a pretty name. Well, that's what I'm trying to say is that it's, so Gurdeep spoke about that, 2 billion minutes in 24 hours with Skype, sort of a thing. And before that, we had an MSN voice as well. But what I'm trying to say is that it is the almost 6th or 5th generation software. So it's not the very first time. Now, let me submit to this. This is the same, those focus areas are written this way in the list format. Dial plan, high availability, interoperability, IP network related stuff like call admission control and stuff like that, security. Remember, all those topics were there. I very humbly submit to you that I'm going to go one by one in detail, but these are actually strengths of Lync. Once you learn them, then you realize that. Think in this time, I'll give you an example. Branch survivability, I'm going to come to dial plan later on because I have more slides on it. So I'm going to come to branch survivability right now. Traditionally, what happens when your branch is isolated from the mothership, you went into a survivability mode, and your phones re-register to that, not UC. Phone re-register to the local survivable gateway, right? You have to make sure the key layouts and everything, make sure that they are not changed, but there is a user experience that phone unregisters and registers. You cannot do IM in the branch. You cannot do video within the branch, which is now isolated, right? No, sir. With Microsoft SBA, you preserve all point-to-point UC capabilities and 100% of telephony. That's called UC branch survivability. You're talking UC. You see, PBX I shared yesterday, it is a dead-end architecture. And I was so happy to hear Gurdeep this morning, because this is what I said yesterday in a closed user group meeting, where I said that by changing the name and putting UC in front of me doesn't mean that your PBX become a unified communications architecture, right? So that's what it is. So you have to think in that sense, multi-point of presence, call admission control, available, able to handle that piece of thing. You want to talk about encryption. You don't have to say that, oh, I turned on the encryption, my scalability went by half. No, it shouldn't be like that. What about, signaling encryption versus media encryption? What about management traffic encryption? So it's all, all those things you have to think about it from that standpoint. So let's get into this. It's really cool. So first of all, your user habits, the dial plan should be such that it should be E.16. Or first example, who remembers that we were the first one with E.61 and the other people were not able to handle plus sign. So they had to, that was a mess. We trying to convince the world that you need to adopt E16 for dial plan. It's amazing. So, but the point I'm trying to say is that RFC 3966 is obviously Internet Engineering Task Force. It includes E164, a part of that. What I'm trying to say is that think in this term. Centralized dial plan. How the network I used to run or was responsible for, it had over 900 PBXs. Most of them, 80% plus of them networked together. when we added one NXX anywhere in the world, or we opened a new office, it used to take months, almost 3 months, to get back to the business, say that you can make on-net call to that branch. Well, people will laugh at you. Really? You put your act together now? With Lync, all you have to do is go and turn on, enable enterprise voice for those users. And as long as it takes Active Directory to replicate, the magic sauce. You're sitting in Chicago and you're making calls to Timbuktu or Tokyo, whether click to call by name or by 4 or 5 digits or whatever it is. So all those overlapping dial plans, all you can think of it, is there. Everything is there, right? It not only can preserve your existing dialing habits, it gives you those capabilities, click to call, call by name, and not from communicator or Lync itself only, from web, through web pages. Go to 1-800-Flowers in your browser, look it up, and if you have Lync installed, and you'll see that even the URL 1-800-Flowers, there would be an icon like you saw in the Skype, and you can click to call. That's called click to call. Really cool stuff, right? Really, really cool stuff. It's one more thing to make a point here. I'm a hardcore IP telephony guy. I used to live on dial plans, so my apologies for this. But I have to share this. PBXs out of the box are designed for off-net routing. What I mean by that is for PSTN connectivity. Would you agree with me? Right? When you created a network, you had to put tie lines on net routes and then configure and say, and then you have to create either a tandem switching or hierarchical network. How do you going to route? You have to think about access dial codes, steering digits and everything. You see where I'm coming from? It is out of the box, is designed for PSTN connectivity. It took me a while when I was on the other side of the aisle. I couldn't understand. Remember, I was doubtful even you can assign a DID to this thing or not. Lync out of the box is on net. It's so cool. Think in the game. If you have done on net, you have developed the dial plans and then an ongoing maintenance of those dial plans, and as you add new numbering schemes and all this thing. We ran out of DIDs in our Stamford, Connecticut office, and when they came and said that add another NXX, it was nightmare. It takes, what is the justification? It's like going and asking an internet registry for a /16. You go in front of municipal board and justify that, and then incorporate that in your dial plan, in a global dial plan with 55 countries and 900 plus PBXs. It's nightmarish. But what I'm trying to tell you is Lync right out of the box is on net. When you dial by Lync, it's dials by SIP URI. It reverse number lookup. If you dial a digit, 4 digits, 5 digits, or even 64 number, it basically what it does is, like any other PBX does, it says, can I locally terminate this call? And the way it does by doing that is that it does something called reverse number lookup. And it finds the corresponding SIP URI and continues to dial. If there was no SIP URI, that means now you need to send it to some other thing, either to voicemail or routing. You see where I'm coming from? It's really cool. So I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to bore you with dial plan thing, but that's what it is. It's really cool. It gives you all those, fancy trunk failover options. And if you want to learn that, talk to Tamur. He's a dial plan guru, or Doug Lodi. These guys know it inside out. This is another really cool topic. I really like this. I've usually been asked by, what do you say? Hopefully I'll say it this time correctly. 5 nines, 9 fives? High availability, right? Of the 5 level. So 99.99%. Can you do that? Well, here is the deal. Any voice over IP system, regardless it is from Microsoft, Avaya, Cisco, or anybody on the planet, the weakest link, you have to make sure if the underlying IP network, IP transport, cannot give you an SLA of 5 nines or better, you can keep saying whatever it is, it's not 5 nines. Now here is what I'm going to say. Lync can be architected to meet your high availability requirements given that your underlying IP network is doing. Because if you have checked it out, I was route and switch guy as well. So voice guy converted to data networking and came back to voice. I have designed for a fairly large Swiss bank their LAN access and their data center. With the vendor of the choice, with their help, we could not come up with, for that, my ex-employer, may not be valid for you, but you can check, go and talk to your IP networking guys. At the time, I'm talking about 2004, 2005 timeframe, 99.97% availability of VLAN, not a switch. I'm talking VLAN spanning multiple switch. So if you think now that with this is the nature of the beast, so voice over IP. So I'm going to leave it that. It's the way you designed as an architect is around single point of failure. You want to make sure there is no single point of failure, there is no capability which is degradation of capability. 2013 allows you the true geographical redundancy. So it's not like that you have a cluster A and cluster B, and cluster A cannot back cluster B. Or you basically have to have a cluster distributed in multiple data centers. If you ask our competition, they cannot back one cluster with another cluster. One phone cannot be registered with the two clusters at the same time. In Lync Enterprise Pool, absolutely. It's true geographical redundancy. You can get into that, what we call active-active. You can have half registered people here, half on this. So your one is not dormant, doing nothing and waiting. No, you are using it all the time. You see, those DRs checks that you do it every 3 months, that, oh, the DR site is actually working or not. You don't have to do it because it's all active-active, right? And if one goes down, the other can seamlessly take over. Well, it depends on your trunk design, that how the PSTN connectivity looks like. It depends upon your unified messaging design. Make sure that the voice, yes, you have to take care. But from the Lync application standpoint, it is true geographical redundant. I've already touched upon the survivability. The last piece here is session resiliency, and I had shared this yesterday with some folks. I'm going to slightly repeat that here. It's a really cool notion. Any voice over IP system is connection preservation. You make a voice call, voice over IP. If you're signaling, your call control layer goes away, call stays up. It's whether Cisco, Microsoft, Avaya, or anybody else. That's the nature. That's how voice over IP works. What you lose is controls. You cannot hold the call. You cannot transfer the call. You lose all those controls. If the call was already on hold, you cannot retrieve it. The one you put the phone on the cradle, there's a timer kicks off, 30 seconds plus 3 or some periods, 90 seconds, and it will then hang up the call for you. It's actually times out. It doesn't hang up the call. Well, not in Lyncs. Lync will on the fly during the call, let's suppose if I was calling somebody in UK, and the Lync server in the pool which anchored my call, which was acting as providing, I keep saying call control, I should call it session control, it's the SIP, right? But that server goes down or becomes unavailable for some reason. I would know, my client would tell me that I have it will unregister, it will show me, right? But it will automatically re-register with another server, and I'll get all it rebuilds the control, mid-call controls. I get all the call controls back. Really cool stuff, okay? Interop. I picked these 3 areas. Interop means many things, again, to many people. I picked these 3 areas. I thought that your phone presence, which is essentially when people say phone presence, and I've picked on this term because of ease of communication with people, but essentially the way I came from, I used to call it BLF, busy lamp field. It was always there in PBX, right? Off hook, on hook. You remember shared line appearances, boss admin scenarios? That's how the admin knew that boss is off the hook, because the lamp went off, busy lamp field. Then I already talked about RCC. And then on the voice side, I want to talk about, that when we talk about the voice side, it's automatically when we talk about interoperability in our head is trunk side. We connect the two. How do you trunk this together? There is actually a SIP. SIP, the beauty of the SIP is that SIP endpoints, basically, what they think that they are very intelligent. they are equal participant. It's unlike PBX, where PBX was, when you dial the phone, or you pick up the phone and press a number, phone would immediately start yelling on the PBX side, oh, somebody dialed 1, somebody dialed 2. Whereas the phone, SIP phone, says it's an equal participant in the architecture, right? So that's where it is extremely important to look at the interoperability from the line side standpoint as well, not only from the trunk station, but from the station and user side standpoint. So I'll come to it as well. And then the video. And anything you would like to add? Anything missing? So let's first hit the phone presence. Okay. All right. So to me, my presence is about a person, not about device. Right? Would you guys agree? Right? So my presence, there are sources, multiple sources of my presence. And the top 3 sources actually are listed here. My calendar, my mouse and keyboard activity, and my phone. The aggregation of that shows my presence, whether I'm busy, I'm in a meeting, I'm in a conference, I'm on a mobile device, I'm away, or I'm offline, or be right back, right? Those sort of thing is this. If you look at this now, and if this works, I have to go there. Okay, see, yeah, see? Okay, would you agree this? It could be 80%, 20%, it could be 90%. I'm not hung up on this 90% or 10% thing, but I'm trying to say, giving you an idea. The point I'm trying to make is that the most, my calendar and my keyboard and mouse activity they contribute overwhelmingly to my presence as opposed to my phone. When phone is again a habit. It's now in today's of, where we live on these devices, where we consume more megabytes than minutes. How many times in a work day you take call on your desk phone versus this is your personal thing? I don't have a scientific data, so I'm not going to say that. But it's about 10 to 20% of the time my phone presence, that I'm busy on a phone, comes from a device like a phone, whether it's a desk phone or that's it. If let's suppose for the ease of math, if I say 50% come from this, 50% of the time I take call during 8 hours in a day on this, and then rest on my desk phone. Okay, so we covered this. There is clients here, the presence is captured. That's not a problem here, right? Even with the Plantronics and our partners, and if you look, the headset Bluetooth if you are on the cellular network, it will still feed the presence back. So you're covered there from APIs of Lync and everything standpoint. 5%, or maybe even if you double it, 10%, I was completely maybe 100% wrong, or even 15%. If that merits for you to deploy a CTI and CSGA gateway and worry about its high availability, scalability, how you're going to do that, licensing, complexity, sure, that could be the use case. But essentially to me, it's a moot point. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, there could be some desk-bound worker scenarios or some high-call volume scenarios where it is, other than the presence, there's something like a screen pop or something like is important. The CTI sort of thing becomes important, or JTAPI becomes important. Yes, you can do that. But why would you keep the whole enterprise hostage to those high-call volume or different scenarios? That's what I'm trying to get to. So essentially, that's what I think the pie chart looks like, and that's what it is from a phone presence standpoint. But we're gonna we should be able to, for example, I'll give you example of conferencing. If I wanted to use my PBX phone as my default conferencing device, and I do not want to show up in the roster as Amir Kaleem and a phone number, it should be just one. And my correct presence that I am in conference and it read. Lync can do that today. Right? So that's what I'm trying to point out. Okay, actually, let Let me go back here. I missed this piece here. I want to hit on the user side of this thing, line side of this thing. So, are you guys familiar with the Microsoft interoperability programs? The UC OIP webpage? Anybody? Show of hands. All right, so you guys are familiar with that. You've seen the optimized device or compatible with devices on the TechNet? Think in this term. When I was back in early 2000s designing this thing, I had to pick vendor C and vendor N or vendor A and put their necks together because all of them said they supported QSIG. But would the QSIG link came up for the first time and all the IEs aligned and my caller line ID was working? Answer was no. HC versus ISO, all those things. Same is true for the line side. You remember that promise of SIP in late 90s that you would run to Radio Shack and buy a $30 SIP phone and everything would be hunky-dory? No, it's not that. You do not want rogue users, rogue endpoints, right? You want that. So that's what it has become extremely important to stand up, because best of breed doesn't mean that now as an enterprise you are middle of this thing, oh, I bought best of breed, now it's up to me, onus is on me to how to make them work. We, Microsoft, has done that interoperability testing. We have stood up those programs for line side as well. Not on the trunk side, but for line side as well, to make sure that you get a shrink wrap experience. That's why when you take a CX600 and home and plug it behind your DSL or cable modem router, it just comes up. It's a Polycom hardware or an HP hardware or Astra hardware or a Snom hardware. We are doing the same thing. We have done the same thing to phones, what we did to the CPU sort of thing or computer market. It was a vertical model. You had to buy the cable, the keyboard, the mouse, and everything, whatever it is, the display from the same, mainframe vendor. If you tilt it on the side, the vertical, and you create that horizontal, that hardware layer, the OS layer, the application layer, the devices layer, that's what we have done, basically. Two things happen. I bought a Sony laptop in 2002 for $1,850. What type was I thinking? That laptop, and something like probably at the scale of 20%, 30% more powerful, maybe more, is available for less than $300 from Best Buy. Because of the competition. The prices go down, the quality goes up. Right? That's extremely important. So that's the model we follow on that. I think the last I checked, 150 qualified devices on the TechNet. And various, it's important that you profile your users. You sit in a cubicle, you sit in an office, you are a road warrior, and devices are a very personal thing. I am at heart still a telecom old school guy. I like the phone. If you go to my home office, I travel a lot, right? But if you go to my home office, there's a CX300. It's a USB phone because I don't care it connects at the USB port or RJ45. I like the phone itself. That's what I wanted to say. This session was about voice, so I'm not covering much about video, but I think it's important to hit a little bit on interoperability on the video as well. You saw the Tanbuck interoperability, native interoperability. We basically, it's a three thing. Native, which is actually the line side as well. That's the reason I want to hit on this. It's important to see, the thing is that if you are multi-point of presence, so for example, if you call me now, before I say that, I need to give you an identity with what to call. You can reach me at amir.kaleem@microsoft.com. Well, you can have an experience when you call me on this and instead of call, I should say, you want to initiate a conversation, you can have an experience with me. Another way you can reach me, 630-725-4202. And now see the difference? What would be the experience? But you can still reach me. But if you call me now, it's going to ring at least two places right now. My home office and this right here. And if I was logged into my machine here, on my surface, it would ring that as well. So multi-point of presence is extremely important. The call admission control is extremely important. All those capabilities with this unified communication architecture, that's about a person, and the person could be logged into simultaneously in multiple devices. That is extremely important. That's part of the line side. You get the benefits, sort of a thing. Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm doing something wrong here. Okay. All right, cool. So let's get into it now, so sort of thing. It's not about rip and replace. It is robust enough. It's an enterprise-grade architecture that it can stand on two legs and provide you enterprise voice, enterprise telephony capabilities. But we don't want you to go and start throwing your PBXs. I love you for that if you do that. But essentially, it's up to you. It's about you. It's not about us or somebody else. You see, the thing is, when I was on that first time when I was asked to put together a team to evaluate, select, design, and deploy, the very first thing came to my mind is product roadmap. I need to put a roadmap first, Then I realized after working for a couple of weeks, I didn't want a roadmap, product roadmap. I wanted a service roadmap. Because my business users were not asking me a Avaya dial tone or Cisco dial tone or a Microsoft dial tone. They were asking for a reliable dial tone. So I had a service, dial tone, and the products from Cisco, Avaya, Microsoft, because it was sort of multi. Imagine 110,000 ports, 55 countries, right? You can imagine that it was a multi-vendor environment, and it's going to be there. I can put a goal. I can put this stake in the ground that I would go to the single vendor. But you know what? As I start getting towards that goal, the technology moves. It's always catching up. That my stake which I put in the ground, by the time I reach there, the whole thing shifts again. So from a large enterprise standpoint, I'm likely to be in a multi-vendor environment. So that's why we do not come from the notion of rip and replace, right? So you can connect, you can replace, you can enhance or retain your PBX. That's what it is. Now this is basically, let's say, example here. I'm not showing the devices and phones sort of thing here, but you have multi-vendor PBX environment. They're all connected to the PST and they could be connected together. How do you introduce Lync? Usually this is how you introduce Lync behind them. Agreed? Right? So not 100% all the time. You can completely throw the boxes and do that. Well, you can retire your end of life. What I'm trying to point to make is that you can retire your end of life, decommission your end of life PBXs, replace them with the session border controllers or media gateways, and you can keep your newer PBXs if you want to. You can maintain that dialing domain, 2 digits, 4 digits, 5 digits dialing. Nobody's saying that. And let me show you what I meant by that. So hang on a second here. Bear with me. So it can replace. It is, examples are there. You saw the examples. I put 2 up there from a carrier standpoint, Swisscom. 16,000 people, 98 PBXs retired completely sort of thing, right? So it can be. If you're looking for a contact center, our contact center, I was asked yesterday, our contact center strategy is partner-led. We are working with our partners. We are with next release of the server. We're going to make more scalable, ability to more scale. Right now, if you look at the contact center, and I'm going to come back to the original thought, but let me finish this first. There is 80% of the market requirement is 400 concurrent agents or less. But if you are Sally Mays of the world, where you probably have 1,500 or 2,000 concurrent agents in a single queue, yes, so we play with them as well. Genesis, they're here, go and speak to them. Aspect, right? Then you have a next layer where, if you look at the contact center players, they're call control independent ACD application, contact center applications, which Genesis, Aspects is a very good example of that. Then there is a call control or PBX intertwined sort of a thing. You can say Avaya is a good example of that, still very, very popularly deployed, right, sort of thing. Cisco could be in that, although Cisco thinks that there is PBX independent, but you still need a call manager basically to do that. And if you go some layer below, then interactive intelligence, Altigens, and all those players come into my mind. We actually created a new thing. Federated contact centers. Cloud is there. Don't need to explain it to you what you mean by outsource, cloud, manage. You guys know that. Federated contact center is this cool. Let's say seasonality. You get to your manpower or somebody and say, hey, we need 50 or 100 agents more. For Christmas is coming, we need to stand up, or 200 agents more. Now you have to start thinking you have to put up 200 machines, put the software on it, put this, authentication, create Active Directory accounts, all the security. You have to take this, how they're going to remote access, and you have to give it to them. No, sir. Manpower, we're not going to give you any machine. Here is the Lync line. Download, here is the credentials. Come to the Federated. You have Lync, we have Lync. Federated, come with us. That's it. That client becomes that. It's so cool. I made it over simplified what I said it, but think about it. This is how it is. I'm not going into that whole Skype as a, I think I need to share this. I was about a year back, I was in New Zealand, Australia. So I took my wife with me. So, because I travel a lot, and you can understand that my domestic situation is not very good. But so I asked Lubna to come and join me. So because obviously she had to pay for herself. She had an aunt in Auckland, and she had to fly from Auckland to Sydney. So she said, oh, she came and told me, I booked the cheapest airline and blah, blah, blah. I've got a very nice deal. And I said, okay, cool. We are in Auckland. Next day we were going to go to Sydney. So I got onto this is Jetstar. It's a Qantas budget airline. Anybody is familiar with Jetstar? So I got on their website, $75 per kilo. I could have bought a first class Qantas ticket. I'm mad at Lubna. What did you do here? I don't know, this is the cheapest airline. There is no baggage allowance. $75 per kilo. It's ridiculous, right? Okay, let me get on their website and get on there. Oh, if you buy it in advance, it's still $30 per kilo, which is still very expensive. I hit on contact us. So I'll encourage you to do that. I hit on contact us. Very first thing it said, Skype is. Huh? I'm the guy from Skype. So I'm confused. Okay, if I click it, this is probably going to say, give us a number, we'll call you through Skype or something. I click on it, it fires my Skype client and makes a call. I hang up and try again. Hang up, try again, and then start, Lub, come here, check this out. She's like, what's happening to you? You were mad at me one instance, and now it actually makes, if you click on that, it's a Skype URIs. It makes using Skype, and what it did was, obviously it's on my buddy list now. So it secured its place on my buddy list, and it made a Skype call to that. And obviously you can imagine that what else can be happen. So interoperability by design, that's what we say. We are participating in, I love to have the conversation about WebRTC offline if you want to do that. I love that discussion. But point I'm trying to say is that we basically have stood up our own programs. Let's see if this program works. Yeah, here we go. So we think in this term. There are examples of vendors or partners, ISVs, who without talking to us, seriously, without talking to us, built SIP clients for Lync, not for Windows, for iOS and Android. Can you believe that? Reading our documentation. We not only provide API, royalty-free APIs and SDKs. We provide all the documentation on the protocols, that how we implemented RFC 3269, for example. Our interpretation of the standards. We publish them, and they're called Redline documentation. It's publicly available. Really cool stuff. Go and check. Any other vendor does that, and you can do that. People have done that, and we're contributing to all the industry forums as well. Okay, this is another, I get passionate. So I'll give you this story, and I'm going to keep calling her name, but it's first time that she's in our audience, so I can't resist that. I think it was 2006. Finally, that we agreed, okay, we're going to look at this thing and unified communication. I think we probably called it, she invented a term called blended services architecture at the time, or SIP applications or something. So we put a picture together. I don't know if Christian Wagner or Daryl Rowe in the room. So there are a bunch of folks here as well who were with us as well. So what happened is that we now went to the network team and we said, okay, trader voice, standard voice, and all this video, all these going to go to we need quality of service and call admission control. So the guy on the other side and we all put our heads together and we came up with a term in 2006 that we need dynamic call control. We need something which can figure it out on the fly that, this is a trader voice versus this or that, or at least it can be a single call control, basically, call admission control. Well, we're not there yet, but I'm telling you that that was my background on this. Lync, really cool. If I was a headquarter user and I was allowed HD video, and I roam to a branch office. Let's say my branch office is connected behind a 1 MB link or 512K link. I'm a regular user. I go in that branch and I make a video call to my buddy in the headquarter. HD video call. What did I just do?
Nobody talks after that.
Say again?
Nobody talks after that.
I'll bring the branch down. Thank you very much. Because I'm spitting probably minimum 2 meg on a 512K link. I saturate the link. You see? Because client, it doesn't know where I am. No, sir, not on Lync. It's a location-aware CAC. My personal policies get overridden by where I am. It knows where I am on the fly, and it will either deny me the call and give me the message that, sorry, you're not allowed on this link, or it will give me whatever the quality, SD quality video, whatever the policies are, you set it. It's really cool stuff, call admission control. It is designed for multi-point of presence. For example, take example, if I was logged in at multiple sites. I was again roaming to a small saturated branch and somebody calls me from PSTN. Now it's ringing 3-4 places and one of the link is saturated. What should it do? Reroute the call to the PSTN? No, sir. We have thought it through. So the algorithm is intelligent enough to figure it out. Oh, you have multi-point of presence here. You're logged into multiple places. It will give you an opportunity to pick up the call from a non-constrained, non-bandwidth constrained location. If you cannot, then after a timer, it will reroute the call and connect you, basically. So we have thought it through. It's really cool standpoint. Think in this term. How many of you have designed those IP network regions in Cisco or Avaya where you've defined the codec set? Right? So you say G711 within the branch and G729 over the WAN. Agree? So, and you put it in that order and you define that codec set, you put the codec name and you say, well, I just gave you 2, you can have multiple of them. If, let's suppose that your vendor adds a really cool codec, what will happen to your codec sets? You'll have to go back and reconfigure them. You'll have to add that codec and reorder them. Now imagine how many regions you have, how many things you have to touch. Not on Lync. We can, that's the reason we do it this way, that we can add new capabilities, new technology, and you don't have to go and keep touching your configuration again and again. We play on the per session bandwidth. So it is up to that. For example, if let's suppose you say that we're not going to allow G722 from the branch to do audio conferencing because it takes something like 80 kilobits per second after the payload. So payload is 64 plus whatever it is, right? And you say, well, we're going to allow Siren, which is 16 kilobits or 22 kilobits or whatever it is. I don't remember top of my head. But you say, let's suppose that 16 kilobits per second. Now you said that for the conference call, that's the codec. Maximum bandwidth per session is 16 kilobits per second. Tomorrow we add Silk, and it goes less than that. It's a better protocol codec. Now you have to go and change it? No, it's going to pick it up because it's up to that, right? So all the codecs below are available to you. It is, again, session description protocol. You're going to offer those things. Oh, the scientist is here in the room. Tamur, hopefully I'm saying the right things, right? Okay, cool. So the point I'm trying to say is that we have thought it through. These are small things, but we have thought it through. Think in this term, that you, under the same control channel, under the same SIP invite, you can write media 2 different paths. Can you? I think we are the only vendor, UC vendor, who can do that today. It could lead, it's again policy that you allow or not allow as As an enterprise, you may decide as an administrator, as a Lync administrator, you decide not to do it, but the capability is there, the knob is there. Let's suppose I was making a video call to somebody in Hamburg. The bandwidth policy server says, Mr. Kaleem, I only have bandwidth for audio portion. I don't have bandwidth for video portion. Well, I'm going to keep you on net for audio, but I'm going to offload your video through internet and bring it back in. So you actually enter the same control channel. You routed media through 2 different networks and connected. Really cool stuff, right? Yeah, depending upon, you'll do it. You want to make sure there is no lib synchronization issues, and you want to see that your internet connectivities can handle that, those things. But the capability to route from 2 networks is really amazing sort of a thing. I've already touched on security. The only piece I'm going to talk about this, you guys are familiar with ICE, TUN? You guys know what it is? SIP is a very cool protocol, but it comes with its fair share of problems for the NAT traversal or firewall traversal, and that's where these things, ICE comes in, or TUN comes in. People who are in the selling boxes for VPN, they won't adopt it. Finally, that when you guys are force them, they're saying that, oh, we're going to do it in the future release. But this is the magic sauce which makes VPN less secure, end-to-end secure connectivity. Because it lets SIP traverse every media terminating endpoint of Lync, whether it's a trunk side or line side, is ICE and TUN client. Really cool. Right. Okay. All right, this is another very favorite topic of mine. I thought because when I joined, there was a question? No, okay. So when I joined Microsoft about 5 years back, this was probably the very first topic in every conversation we had. And then it was put to rest. And then I'm beginning to see for the last 6, 7, 8 months, this question is coming back again. So I thought, let me address this. And the number one reason people think that they need G729 is because of its bandwidth consumption. Fair enough? Yeah? Low bandwidth consumption. So let me explain what this chart says. It's basically, if you look at the packet loss tolerance, you have to architect your IP network to handle G729 to make sure that it can give you 0.1% packet loss. Or G711 is a 1% packet loss, I believe. Yes. And VBR is variable bit rate, basically, right? So it's not, you have not different modes. It's only fixed bandwidth sort of thing. Whereas RT audio narrowband and RT audio wideband, if you look at the payloads, and because they are, variable bit codecs, so you see, I'm saying it is from 12 kilobits to all the way to 51 kilobits, 29 kilobits, and these are the number on the wire. The payload is the column under the payload, right? So that sort of thing. And it is designed for the harsh network, unmanaged network, especially from an internet standpoint. You cannot tell your CEO that you're running this in your home over a Linksys router or a Netgear router. You need something more in your toolbox to provide some level of confidence that it would be this. Now, if the bandwidth is the thing, per session bandwidth, you have to look at this. It is average with 61% VAD. These are published numbers on TechNet. You can go and find out this chart on the TechNet, and I can send you a link as well. 29 so this is a planning numbers Microsoft suggests 29 kilobits per second for the narrowband and 39 kilobits for this. It is right with G729. So again, to me, why would you not ride a Cadillac for the same dollar amount, and why you will go for a Kia sort of thing, right?
This is where I get hung up to try to do our capacity planning for this. Which of those numbers do I use for my estimates?
Yeah, brilliant question. The question, let me repeat the question, make sure that everybody, and I understood the question. The question is that, hey, it's because of the variable bit codecs, it is sometimes difficult to figure out which number should I use for the capacity planning, right? Fair? Absolutely. So think in this term. Go back to that example I gave you. Within the branch, what you do, you use G711, and outside the branch, you do what? 729. I would suggest that that's how you plan. Well, you have to look at, I'm saying, making it very simple because you have to look at the conferencing, you have many concurrent conferencing, all those things, but video and all this. But from a voice standpoint, from point-to-point voice standpoint, you need to plan for audio, the planning number for within the branch should be 39 and on the WAN 29. Make sense? You also have the capability. This is also call admission control of Lync would honor call admission control as long as the terminating endpoint is Lync. Origination could be any. Right? Now let me make sure I'm not running out of the time. Somebody was looking at their. Okay, cool. So you basically, in that sense, it's actually, here is another thing. That's the last, I think it says here. Lync does not say that you cannot use G729. Lync ecosystem supports G729. Lync itself doesn't. So for example, if you have a SNOM phone and a SNOM phone, and you have set the codec to G729, Lync, if they're registered to Lync, the call between those two SNOM phones will be G729. Nobody's stopping you that. We don't manipulate the session description SDP, basically, as part of the SIP invite. So it is that cool from our standpoint. Bottom line is that if you want G729 on your network, you can have G729. From a Lync client to Lync client, it is the best protocol negotiated at the time. And actually, Lync client is dependent upon the other side, what is the offer is. Make sense? All right, cool. All right, let me quickly go through this. This is, again, my slides. Amir Kaleem slides are not Microsoft slides. I want to caveat that, make sure. You see, in a traditional sense, you have a call control PBX. You have an IM in presence server. You have an audio conferencing bridge. You may have a video conferencing bridge. You might have a video web conferencing, something for mobility. And then you, basically in the old times, you connected all this together. If you simplify it, at least for the PBX and the video bridge and audio bridge, you had gatekeeper. Remember that? Right? In this world, nobody is going to accept gatekeeper. So you have to do what? You have to do something session manager. See, you put whole cluster as a session manager. That's how you do sell it. What essentially it is, it's a redirect server. It's acting nothing but as a redirect. Every time you make a call, for example, if I was an end device and I was on a point-to-point call with Sinead and I want to escalate to the to a conference call, well, the call control will redirect me to the conferencing bridge. And I would reinitiate a SIB invite, go to the conferencing bridge, and conferencing bridge would act as a call control at that time for that particular session. What it leads to, what do we mean by that? That's how I feel. It's just three things I want to point out here. You end up, for the same LLQ, you end up competing because there are two different call controls, because there is redirect, 302 message going on. Right? It's not proxy. So what will happen is that you are getting, there's more noise at the priority queue level. You may end up with a poor user experience. You may end up saying, oh, click on this URL and another window opens up for the conferencing. You know, your IM session and you want it to escalate to maybe to conferencing. So you might say, oh, every user gets a URL, you click and another thing opens up. So disjointed user experience. And on the troubleshooting side, obviously it becomes a little bit nightmarish to figure it out, you know, oh, you start tracing the call. So where this call originated from, who redirected, and finally who anchored the call and what happened there, sort of a thing. This is what comes to my mind, the architecture. You basically have, you should be able to preserve, no rip and replace, and you should be able to preserve this thing. I'm going to avoid calling it a session management, right? It's a SIP core independent of vendors. You should be able to have that dialing domain, 3 digits, 4 digits. You should be able to connect your, voice adjuncts, whether it's a call recording infrastructure or whatever it is. You should be able to do. You should be able to have your existing VTCs. And you should had that capability. Even the existing VTC should be able to natively register and take advantage of call admission control from Polycom, from live size, right? That sort of an architecture comes to my mind. It's very high level, 10,000 foot view, but happy to go further offline if you guys want to talk about this more. Let me get to why all this? You know, why that architecture? It's about that, you know, when we say it's about user, essentially we're talking about productivity of that user, right? And that's what we are delivering. Because think of this term. When I was first time asked somebody that, you know, it's a post-PC era, and this is a post-PC era. Well, I'm carrying a Windows phone. You might be carrying an iOS device or Android or Ultrabook or Airbook, right? Those post-PC eras. Look at them. What is one thing in common? My answer was touch. The other person said, dummy, look again. There is no Ethernet port on it, right? So what I'm trying to get to that is that you have to decouple your network decisions from your UC decisions. Otherwise, then everything should come from the network vendor. The premise of Ethernet was basically that it was, you know, you can run any application on top of it. So we gonna be there where our users are, and that's what we delivered. And let me say that how do I see it? So this is, I was thinking about when I was coming last night. So I said, how do I explain this, what I'm trying to say? So I put together this chart. This is now again an industry thing. You need an identity. You have an operating system layer, you know, where devices run. You need some productivity suite. And if you gel them out, messaging, communication, conferencing, at a high level, I put knowledge workers. Those could further go into boss, you know, executive versus regular versus something, you know, but I did it at a very high level. So higher call volume and, you know, normal users. If this is what it is, I call them, how do I label them? So I call them unified productivity layers. These are the layers. This is how, from architecture people, think about it. This is how, if I now put my Microsoft hat and try to map them. This is what comes to my mind. Look at this. You basically you're reusing most of your assets. This allows you that connected user experience anywhere, on any device, seamlessly, right? You're not in control, or if you think that you are, very soon I have a news for you, you're not going to be in control of all your end-to-end call lags. They'll not be riding on your network anymore. Yes, a portion of some call lags may be on your network, some would be outside your network. So you have to think in that way, that you have to have that something in your toolbox to deliver that capabilities in a reasonable way. When we say very, you know, in a way that, oh, you're going to be on a Starbucks, you have to think that what do you mean by that sort of a thing, right? So you have seen the news that Google, Microsoft, and, you know, we are getting together and trying to get this Wi-Fi thing going. They want that ubiquitous Wi-Fi everywhere. What do you mean by that? So sort of thing. This is exactly, you know, the idea is that all those things, the reliability, the security, the manageability, the operationability, scalability, those all things have to be there. Let's get the technology out of the way, let people naturally connect. And that's what I mean by that is, let's see if I can show you this here as the animation builds. That's what we mean by that. You know, hey, what do you mean by cloud? Or what do you mean by, you know, productivity? I'm the guy who was on Notepad. Seriously, about 2 weeks back, I was still to date, and actually here it is. Yesterday from the session, I was still taking notes. I'm still not completely gone myself. But I started using OneNote about 2 weeks back. Me, Microsoft guy. And when I looked at it on my phone, I was sore. Man, that's what it is all about. So it's about, you know, to me was that communication is a part of the productivity. You have to see it part of it. You can't see it different other than productivity. So you have to make sure that you're able to embed. Here is another thing. Gurdeep used the term asynchronous and synchronous thing. I'll tell you what, I use it this way. He was actually at a much higher level than me with what he was trying to say. It was very cool to see what he said. But what I think is that communication and collaboration is overlapping. So if I was talking to you right now, and you decided, no, whatever you said, I don't know what you're talking about, let me confirm with somebody. You take out your cell phone and you basically dial somebody on a speaker phone, and I'm listening. I'm not on that physically connected to that call. But we all know, the other person and three of us, we are now on a conversation. That's a conference going on, right? That's what I don't know if I get a good example, but that's what I'm trying to get to. That it's like, we are humans and we communicate and we converse. And that's what we need to think about this thing. And we have the way, we should not adopt the technology. Technology should adopt us. I am talking to you, Amir Kaleem, who works for Microsoft. I'm a Microsoft professional talking to you. Right after this session, I'm probably going to take out the phone, call my wife up, and say, honey, it was good. Right? I'll be still Amir Kaleem who works for Microsoft, but I'll be a husband now. So my persona would change. So the way I seamlessly move these personas or profiles, technology should follow me. I should not follow the technology. And the way, it's my choice, whether I'm on Mac, Windows, or whatever the device I am, I should be there. It's, again, meeting experiences. What I'm trying to say is that this whole meeting thing is collaboration, is becoming part of overlapping from a point-to-point communication standpoint. It's overlapping sort of a thing. So idea is, where do you spend most of your day? If I had to ask you, my answer to me, if somebody asked me, 80% of my day is spent in Outlook. Right? I communicate and collaborate. And the moment regardless, when the email comes in, whether that person is within at Microsoft.com or not, it becomes part of my virtual team. It's a context. Right? So I don't want millions of apps to find out that, oh, I need to communicate, this is the app I'm going to do this here, and this is the app I'm going to do here. I want connected services on my choice of devices and my identity. I don't want those barriers of network, that I'm on which network and that's my identity. Right? To me, it's my identity, and I should be able to take that identity wherever I want. That sort of a thing. So with that, I'm going to say thank you to you, and I'm happy to take a few questions.